Okay, so again, remember that when you're practicing task 2 at home, the first and most important step is always make sure that you truly understand the question. So, again, this is IELTS task 2. So, step 1 is understand the question. And as we already discussed in the previous lessons, the first strategy for understanding the question or making sure that you understand the question is paraphrase the question. So, paraphrase. Now, again, remember that paraphrasing will not only help you to understand the question or completely understand the question, it will also help you to think more deeply about the question, as well as help you to collect some good vocabulary with the main words used in the question, so that you have some good synonyms and so on that you can apply in your essay. Now, for this video, or these videos, we're going to be using a task 2 question from the website. And the question reads like this. So, writing task 2. You should spend about 40 minutes on this task. Write about the following topic. Most people spend a great deal of time at work. Therefore, job satisfaction is an important part of being happy in life. What elements are required for job satisfaction? And is it possible for all workers to achieve job satisfaction? Give reasons for your answers and include any relevant examples from your own knowledge or experience. Write at least 250 words. Okay, so again, when you're doing this at home, make sure that you write out the original question. So, especially when you're first beginning to practice task 2, double space the original question, and then between the lines write the paraphrase. Now, I don't have a lot of room on my board here, so I'm just going to simply write the paraphrase for this. Okay, so most people spend a great deal of time at work. Another way we can say this is many individuals work much of their time. So notice how I'm using some synonyms like individuals, and also some of the expressions like spend a great deal of time at work. I'm changing the grammar and the expression to work much of their time, okay? Now again, this is a step that you can do, and I recommend doing during the IELTS exam, because it's worth the 1 to 2 minutes in exchange for making sure that you clearly understand the question, and also for that useful vocabulary. So many individuals work much of their time. As a result, it is necessary instead of important to be satisfied with work in order to have happiness. So again, some synonyms and some grammar, some different word forms to paraphrase the question so far. Now, continuing on here. what factors are important to be content with work. And finally, is it realistic for everyone to have job satisfaction? Okay, so there's my paraphrase of the original question. Now I'm quite sure that I clearly understand this question or these questions. I realize now that there's more than one question here. And I have, again, lots of useful synonyms like factors, individuals, in order to, as a result, and so on, which I will be able to apply in my essay. So I can go to the second part of step 1, which is identifying the topic and the controlling idea. All right, so the second part of step 1, understanding the question, is, again, if you remember back to the previous lesson, to identify the topic of the question and then to identify the controlling idea or the controlling ideas. Now, in comparison to the last question or last task 2 that I covered in the videos, you should notice something interesting about this question. This question is an open question. So the question is asking you what elements contribute or are necessary for job satisfaction. You can have a lot of different answers. So this is not an agree or disagree, not an advantage or disadvantage or discuss both views. But again, this is what's called an open question, where you discuss advantage and disadvantage or just have 1 or 2 answers. That's considered a closed question. So you have to be really careful because open questions can be more tricky since they can have a lot of different answers. So again, it's even maybe more important to make sure that you find the correct topic and the correct controlling idea or ideas before you start to create your answer and your thesis. So let's do that now. All right. So B is identify the topic and controlling idea. And again, this is especially important with open questions. Okay, so in our example, again, to find the topic, the easiest way is just simply ask, what are we talking about? Or what is the question asking me about? And when we ask this, so what is the question asking me about? Then we realize that the question is asking me about job satisfaction. So it's no surprise then that the topic in this case is job satisfaction. Okay, and then we want to ask what is the controlling idea, or what are the controlling ideas? And to find that out, we can ask regarding what with the topic. So regarding what about job satisfaction does the question ask? Well, it's regarding the elements or the factors that are important for job satisfaction. So the controlling idea is elements of job satisfaction. Now look carefully at this question, because it actually has two different controlling ideas, so it's a little bit more complex here. There's a secondary question here, which is it possible for everyone to achieve job satisfaction? This is kind of another controlling idea, and in order to get a nice high score on the IELTS, you must not forget to answer this question. If you do, it will be very, very difficult to get a good score. If you don't, and you make sure that you answer both of them clearly, you have a much better chance of getting 7 or even higher. So this here is the first controlling idea. There's a second controlling idea, which is it possible, is job satisfaction possible for all workers? All right, so now that I have identified the topic and identified the two different controlling ideas connected to this topic, I'm ready to go on to the next step of planning, which we'll look at next. All right, so step 2 of the process, and again, this is something that you definitely want to practice at home, is to plan the answer for a strong essay. So step 2, planning a strong response. All right, now for planning a strong response, again, remember from the previous videos that what you need to do is ask what, why, and how, so using critical thinking for the topic, and then for the controlling idea or the controlling ideas. So ask what, why, and how for the topic and controlling idea, or in this case, especially with our question, the controlling idea. So this is the first part of step 2. So let's do that right now with our topic anyways, or let's begin doing that with our topic. So again, our topic is job satisfaction. So the first question that we ask is, what is job satisfaction? So what does it mean to be satisfied with work? Well, different people have different definitions, so just be clear about what your definition is. Again, try to make it as concrete as possible or as visible as possible. And again, remember that all of this information will be used in mostly the introductory paragraph of the essay, but possibly also in other parts of the essay. So the answer to what is job satisfaction? Well, in my opinion, job satisfaction means that you have a positive attitude in your work or about your work. So a positive attitude toward work. So that's my simple definition for now about what is job satisfaction, a positive attitude toward work. All right, so question 2 is, why is this important? So why is job satisfaction important? Well, again, we're lucky here because the question itself gives us a little bit of the answer. Job satisfaction is important for overall happiness in life because we spend most of our life or much of our adult life in our job or in our work. So again, give a clear answer as possible. So adults spend often 40 years doing work. So being positive affects usual mood. Okay, sure. So we've gotten a little bit more concrete. We've identified that it's 40 years of an average adult life, and we can define it even more, 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, or maybe even more. And then we have one more question left, which is how. So I'm just going to erase the top part here. So question 3, how does this happen? And my answer, well, if I'm happy in work or if I'm positive in my work, then when I go home from work and I spend time with my family or with my friends, then I'll continue to be positive. And of course, on the opposite, if I'm negative or depressed about work, then that sadness will continue in the rest of my day as well. So answer 3 is positive attitude after 8 hours of work affects the mood for the rest of the day. Okay, so there's a brief explanation of how job satisfaction is a very important part of not just the time that we spend at work, but also for the overall well-being of the individual. So now I have a very clear idea about my topic of job satisfaction, what it is, why it's important, and how it affects my life. So now I'm going to repeat the same 3 questions, what, why, how, about my controlling ideas or regarding my controlling ideas. So let's do that. So now I'm on to my first controlling idea, which is the elements necessary for job satisfaction. Again, remember, use the original question and not the paraphrase when you're practicing this at home. So controlling idea, and this is my first one, is elements necessary for job satisfaction. Okay, so very quickly now, the first question here is what elements are important? So again, the difference between this example and the last video that we did, so the first example that's given for task 2 with this strategy, is this is an open question. With open questions, especially during the exam, you have to make some quick decisions because otherwise it's easy to get lost. One good trick to get some clear answers about this is think about if you asked 100 people. So if I went around and I asked 100 different people, hey, in your opinion, what's important to be satisfied at work? What would their answers be? And then think about those 100 people and think about what most of them would say. So what would be the top answers? Well, maybe the top answers for a lot of people would be money. If I'm making lots of money at work, then I'm happy. For some other people, maybe the answer would be respect. If I'm respected by my co-workers, by my colleagues, by my bosses, managers, and so on, then I'm happy at work. For other people, it might be safety. If I feel safe in my work, that makes me comfortable, that makes me happy. So I'm sure you'd get a few different answers. Another strategy that you can use to come up with different kinds of good answers to open questions especially is put yourself into that situation. Now, I know many of your students and maybe don't have work experience, but just try to think about, if I have a job, what would that job be? For example, I'm a doctor. Am I happy with my work? Yes, because I'm helping patients get better, feel better, because I'm making good money, because I have lots of time for vacation, and so on. So again, this can help to generate some good ideas. After you think of a few ideas for the open question answer, choose just a couple that you feel are the best and the easiest to write about. You should not try to write about too many because you will run out of time and you will not be able to explain your ideas clearly. So choose 2 or 3 maximum that you feel are easy to write about, strong answers, so many people would have the same answer, and use those. In my case, I'm going to use money and safety. So what elements are important? Answer. A good salary and a safe work environment. Great. Okay, so simple answers, keep them simple. Question number 2. Why does this lead to job satisfaction? So why do these help job satisfaction? Well, again, keep it simple, so don't overthink it. Remember, your goal here is to get a high score, not to explain all of your ideas and all of your arguments as you would in a university class or writing for a magazine or a newspaper. So here your goal is get a high score, keep it simple. So why do these help job satisfaction? A good salary lets people buy luxury goods. So if I make a lot of money, I can buy a nice house, I can buy good food, I can buy a nice car, and so on. And then safe environment, well, because I don't get injured, and being healthy is an important part of being happy. So safe work means being healthy, which means being happy. Great. Now I have one more question left, which is the how. So how does this work? And this is really where you want to stick to facts. So measurable, visible ways to understand these ideas. And of course, again, remember that a lot of these answers will be parts of your introduction. And the how here will likely be a part of your body paragraph for the examples. So question 3, how does this happen? So the answer here, and the reason it's important to think about this is because, again, different people from different cultures, different societies will have different kinds of answers. What is a good salary in one country might not be such a good salary in another country. So in my opinion, a good salary means $10,000 per month. Okay, so I'm Canadian. In Canadian society where I live on the West Coast, it's quite expensive here. So a good salary would be $10,000 where you really feel like you can afford to buy luxury goods, nice house, nice car, and so on. And then the answer to the second question of being safe, we could say, for example, no danger of illness or injury. And just keep it simple there. So some jobs, like a policeman, of course, it can be quite dangerous, or a firefighter, and even a doctor has the danger of becoming sick or ill with some kind of a disease from a patient. So here we're saying no danger of illness or injury. All right, so these are the answers to the what, why, and how for the first controlling idea of elements necessary for job satisfaction. Now, in our question, let's not forget that there's a second controlling idea. Is it possible for everyone to be satisfied at work? So let's look at that real quickly before we get to the final step. So our second controlling idea is how realistic, or is it possible for everyone to have job satisfaction? So controlling idea, this is number 2. Is it possible for all workers to be satisfied? Okay, so that's our second controlling idea. Again, nice and quickly, remember at home, do it on paper. During the IELTS exam, do it in your head. You don't have time to do all these questions and answers, of course, on paper, but you should go through them in your head. After you practice this 4, 5, 6 times at home, your brain will begin to think like this naturally, and it will be a lot faster to come up with the correct answers. So question number 1 here. Is it possible anytime that you see a superlative, so for example, in this controlling idea, the word all, usually the answer is going to be no, never, or not really. Why? Because in school, in academics, and in life in general, we very rarely have a situation where everything or nothing is the situation. So it's the same here. Is it possible for all workers to be satisfied? Likely not. Not at this stage in our history. So no, it is not possible. So of course our second question now is why is it not possible? So why is it not possible for everyone to be happy with their work? Well, really it's really difficult to make it so every job in the world is a job where people earn a lot of money, where people feel safe, and so on. Unfortunately, there are lots of jobs out there that require people to engage in dangerous work, and of course, there's a lot of work out there that just doesn't get paid very well, or some that don't even get paid at all. So, answer 2, because not every job provides a high salary or is safe. Okay, so keeping it as simple as possible. All right, now our final question here, question 3, is how does this happen? Again, you're thinking of some examples here. So what are some low-paid jobs? What are some unsafe jobs? So answer 3 here. Some cleaning jobs have low wages. And some jobs are dangerous, as I mentioned before, like a policeman or a firefighter. Some jobs like police, firemen are dangerous. Okay, so there I have my what, why, how for the second controlling idea of is it possible. Now, by taking the information, especially taking the answers from, again, this why question from both this one and the last controlling idea, I can now create my thesis statement. And again, remember from all of the videos that I've explained before that a strong thesis statement means a strong essay. So let's go to that step next. Let's create the thesis statement. So now that we've gone through the topics and the controlling ideas, we're ready for the final part of the planning. This is B part of the planning, which is generate a strong thesis. So again, remember that your thesis is coming mostly from the answers to the why questions about the controlling idea. So in our case, we need to look at the what for the first controlling idea and then the why for the second controlling idea. So use that information to create the thesis. So again, use your answers to the controlling ideas to create the thesis. Okay, so remember what we said as a response to the first controlling idea. What are some elements necessary for job satisfaction? We came up with the answer of good salary and safe work environment. And then for the second part of the question, which is it possible for all workers? We came up with no, because there are jobs that just do not provide a safe environment or a high salary. So let's write this thesis. I believe that a high salary and safe environment are important for job satisfaction. However, these factors are not possible to achieve for all workers. Okay, so here is my thesis statement. Again, remember, the thesis statement needs to show the style and the voice of the essay. Of course, task 2 essays are persuasive, so that's why I'm saying believe, because it's an argument, and it's first person usually, so I'm using I in my thesis. Notice that the points of my thesis are parallel, so high salary, adjective, noun, and safe environment. So again, adjective, noun. It's really important that you have parallel form in your points. And I'm answering the complete question. So I have my thesis here. Now I'm ready to write my essay. We can see here that my first body paragraph, so my first point is going to be about a high salary, and within that paragraph, I'm going to include the not possible as part of that body paragraph. You'll see this in the next part of the video. And then my second body paragraph will come from safe environment. Again, that will also be with the not possible. So that's the structure coming from the thesis, and we will do this next in the second part, where I will write the response to the question in 4 paragraphs: introduction, body 1, body 2, and conclusion. So look at the next part and see how you use all this information and the thesis to compose a nice, strong task 2 essay, which will surely get you a good and strong high mark for the writing section.